And now, 2 rebrands, 2 flops, and 1 awakening. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Well, we have breaking news tonight, just in from Fox Business. We got a statement. It's from Cracker Barrel. It's doing a U-turn on its disastrous rebrand. Here's the statement. We thank our guests for sharing your voices and your love for Cracker Barrel. We said we would listen, and we have. Our new logo is going away, and our old-timer will remain. Well, that's good news. They didn't make any statement on their lousy interior renovations, making that all look white and bland, but we're waiting for that turnaround as well. That might take a while. But it was an admission of failure and a move to stop what appeared to many to be a woke rebranding of an iconic restaurant chain. But despite their U-turn, it's worth remembering and understanding how this happened. Now, last year, CEO Julie Masino rolled out her 3-year plan to freshen up the restaurant chain.
Our goal is to take what people love about Cracker Barrel and open the aperture a little bit so that more people love Cracker Barrel. So we want to appeal to all generations.
Sounds nice. So they plan to slowly but surely undermine what the brand stood for all along, which was Americana. It was a feel that harkens back to a simpler time. We all know it. But like all propaganda, the goal for the time of the rebrand was to convince you that the rebrand is what people really wanted.
Not only are our guests loving them, they're saying things like lighter, brighter, fresher. Feels like my Cracker Barrel, but they're also saying it's still the warm hospitality, it's still the food that I love, the decor is still on the walls, they love it, and our team members love them as well.
Friends of mine say it looks like a veterinarian office. But Julie kept going, the hard sell kept happening in June.
The feedback and the buzz is so good, not only from our customers, but from our team members. They want to work in a wonderful restaurant, so we're doing everything for our guests and our team members.
Well, that was August, obviously, but the consumers we know now revolted. The stock, well, it had been struggling for a while, but the decline over the last 3 weeks since that new logo rollout was a disaster. Sorry for the pun, it hit the bottom of the barrel. So what was the motivation here? Because when you really think this through, no one in his or her right mind would have thought that going from this, featuring Uncle Herschel, to this, blah, computer-generated nothing, would have appealed to core customers in Paducah, Kentucky, or East Ridge, Tennessee. So what did happen? Was this a simple corporate boo-boo? Or was this actual hostility to traditional country culture somewhere in the corporation itself? Online commentator Robbie Starbuck pointed to Cracker Barrel board member Gilbert Davila, who was put on the board, interestingly, during the height of the George Floyd hysteria. Starbuck asked, what qualified Davila for this board seat? Well, he owned a DEI consulting and strategy firm for 15 years that focuses on pushing DEI and DEI advertising. Well, do you think Davila, with his background and his views, loved the idea of any rebrand or any brand celebrating country culture? From Fox Business, Davila's LinkedIn page states that he's widely recognized for his multicultural market knowledge and his proven track record on how to best embed multicultural perspective into a corporation's entire operation. Well, that's what it certainly looks like might have happened here. In 2020, Cracker Barrel was feeling the heat, remember? And they put this woke fool on its board. So a lot of people thought, well, it just deserved everything it was going to get for ditching what made them special. And in the process, insulting middle America and giving into corporate groupthink. Well, Trump thought, look, he saw this and he was being magnanimous. He urged them to do a U-turn, saying Cracker Barrel should go back to the old logo and admit a mistake based on customer response, the ultimate poll, and manage the company better than ever. They got $1 billion worth of free publicity if they play their cards right. Very tricky to do, but a great opportunity. Well, again, Trump is right again. I mean, and they did exactly what he said to do, except for the bad renovations on the inside of the restaurants. But let's go to the Democrat Party, because their party's rebranding effort makes Cracker Barrels look like Steve Jobs returned to Apple in the early 90s. They got their tushes handed to them last election. They're losing voters across multiple demographics, their customer base, because of their terrible policies. Their woke, pro-criminal, pro-illegal alien, pro-trans nonsense that has led to a revolt of normal people from party ranks.
The Democratic brand right now has about the appeal with the American voter as the Cracker Barrel rebrand has with the American consumers. Bad, bad, bad. What are you doing? Oh, my goodness gracious.
So how do they turn it around? Well, at their strategy meetings, they keep showcasing what the voters rejected last time, but then they turn up the nasty.
The privilege of my lifetime was stand beside someone we know was the most qualified and would have been a fantastic president in a President Harris. We wouldn't wake up every day to a bunch of on TV and a bunch of nonsense. We would wake up to an adult with compassion and dignity and vision and leadership doing the work. Not a man-child crying about whatever's wrong with him. May his fat ankles find something today.
So you actually have to be really funny to make that work. Imagine being a party that thinks they lost in November to Donald Trump because that guy wasn't clear enough about, the issues he just referenced, or because they didn't sell Kamala Harris enough, or because they weren't pro-DEI enough.
We're not shying away from diversity as a strength and equity as a goal and inclusion being the air we breathe. That's what we should be doing.
Now, when Republicans kick off big meetings, they begin with a solemn prayer and maybe the national anthem to celebrate America. But the DNC, they want to signal to everyone that they hate the American story.
Let's talk about the land for a second. The DNC acknowledges and honors the Dakota Oyate, the Dakota people, who are the original stewards of the lands and waters of Minneapolis. As Democrats, I ask of every one of you to not allow land acknowledgments like these to simply be the checking of a box. Be curious, ask questions.
Ask questions. Okay. The Democrats are phonies on this issue because she wants to ask one, don't just check a box. Well, let's settle this once and for all, shall we? Democrats, if you think we're living on stolen land, put your money and your property where your meaningless words are right now and give the land back to the tribes. So Tim Walz, move out of your house, and Viking Stadium, sorry, bye-bye, and all of Hennepin County in Minneapolis, Edina Country Club, Lake Minnetonka, give it all up, liberals, or shut up. Man, the Democrats, they are just simply lost. And Trump, he knows it.
The new box that they've fallen into is crime. There was a consultant on one of the shows this morning I was watching. I thought he was very good. He's a Democrat consultant, and he was screaming, no, no, don't let him do this to you. It's another trap. It's another trap. Trump is saying he's against crime, and they're for crime. No, he's going, it was funny. No, it's a trap. Don't do it.
But they can't help themselves. Failed mayors like Chicago's Brandon Johnson, they throw down the race card because that's all they can do. They don't want to address the real problems. We're going to explode that later on in the show. But their attempt to deflect questions about runaway crime, it's not working, as this CNN reporter found when interviewing Chicago residents about the supposedly improving crime rate.
My first reaction was that this is a good thing. I think that the governor as well as the mayor should be on board with it just so we can get a bit more of security in Chicago the way that we need.
The crime has dropped since 2024. Do you feel like the city feels safer?
No, not at all. No, especially with the police being defunded.
The reporter's like, can I buy a vowel? So she likes Trump's idea of federalizing some of the law enforcement to improve the city's safety, and she doesn't think crime's getting better. The Democrat rebrand odyssey is just another ride on their carousel of failure. But it's all they know. Standing in opposition to Trump and common sense. So they're simply incapable of dropping their support for trans athletes, even knowing their views are overwhelmingly unpopular. And again, Donald Trump, better than anyone else out there, knows how to capitalize on their spiral.
They said that's an 80-20. No, it's a 97-3. You can't have a 7-foot guy playing basketball with the women. You know, it's just one of those little problems in life. And we all have our place. That's okay. I've got my place, too.
Of course, Democrats don't believe they have a policy problem, not on that issue, not on any issue. They think it's just all a messaging problem. Again, this is stupid radicalism and a refusal to admit that they need to appeal not to a fringe, not to the same liberal elites who got them into this mess, but to a core constituency, working class Americans. And you don't need to be a rebranding consultant to tell you what they want. The middle class, regular people, they want safe streets. They want decent education for their kids. And they want a real shot at prosperity. And that's what Donald Trump is delivering. Results. And that is the best branding of all. And that's the angle.
3 hours and 17 minutes. It was Trump's longest public event as president ever. Not even Bill Clinton could last that long. But Trump's more impressed by the guys holding the boom.
I can't believe it. You're not tired holding that?
I have a few more questions.
How strong are you? How strong are you? Look at him. He's been holding that thing for 3 hours. You're a good fisherman.
The guy guzzles Diet Cokes and then does over 3 hours without using the John. Gutfeld can't even make it through the 5. He takes a bathroom break at the bottom of every hour. Trump's a camel. Even his bladder's better than Biden's.
You have not had this happen for 4 years. You sat and you'd ask one question to Biden, and it was always the ice cream question, right? What flavor ice cream do you like best? I like vanilla. And that was the end of the conference.
Biden couldn't even stay awake for 3 hours. The meeting went on for so long, Duffy got caught taking off his shoes. For the first time in his life, Kennedy skipped a workout.
The Pete and Bobby Challenge. It's 100 push-ups, 50 pull-ups, and you try to do it within 10 minutes. I got 5 minutes and 48 seconds. Pete beat me. I'm still bitter at that. 5 minutes and 25. The cabinet leader is Scott Turner. 5 minutes and 15 seconds. I'm waiting for reports from the rest of the cabinet. The only exemptions currently existing is if you can hit a 50 at Bedminster, which President Trump did.
The cabinet meeting was longer than the Titanic. At one point, Rubio was like, I got to get back to work.
You were elected as the president of working Americans, and that's why this Labor Day is so meaningful. For me personally, this is the most meaningful Labor Day of my life as someone with 4 jobs. And so...
At one point, after they'd covered everything, they didn't have anything to say. So they just started teasing Schumer.
Poor stupid Chuck Schumer, the guy. He looks like he's aged 100 years. And I don't like getting into looks. You know, looks don't mean anything, right? When you're in politics, looks don't matter. I look at Pam, I would never say she's beautiful because that'd be the end of my political career.
When he was shooting The Apprentice, board meetings, they went for hours, so this was a breeze. Axios calls him the chairman of all boards. 45, 47, commander-in-chief, mayor of Washington, president of Europe, daddy, and now chairman of America. A man of many hats and a man of many wins.
Domestic steel production is up by 100,000 tons of steels a week. Ford, that just announced it's going to create 4,000 new jobs, American jobs. Hyundai, 14,000 jobs. General Motors is moving production of the Chevy Blazer and Equinox from Mexico back to the United States where it belongs. They're building big, modern, beautiful auto plants. But think of that, we're up 18,000 cars a month. I hope this table gets a lot of the credit for what's happening.
And while Trump's building Alligator Alcatraz, the Speedway Slammer, and the Cornhusker Clink, Zuckerberg's using his Zuckerbucks to build us AI plants the size of Manhattan.
This is something given to me by Mark Zuckerberg, and you'll see this is AI now. So this is one he's building in Louisiana. Look at that, that's the size of Manhattan. So that's superimposed over the island of Manhattan. It takes up a big part of Manhattan. I think they say 81% of Manhattan. So these are big things.
Companies are breaking ground on the Trump boom, and the tariffs are balancing the budget.
The Treasury Department is taking in record tariff revenues that I had been saying was running at a rate of $300 billion a year. You chastised me for saying that it's not, that number is too low. And as usual, you're right. I think we could be on our way well over $500 billion, maybe towards the $1 trillion number.
Tariff stimmy checks on the way, courtesy of DJT. You take that stimmy and you sign up for Fox 1. You can stream Watters and Tom Brady. And today, there was big marriage news. And I'm not talking about Swift and Kelsey. Trade deals are getting married to peace deals. And Trump's lead negotiator used the N-word.
We are negotiating multiple entries into the Abraham Peace Accords because of your vision. There's only one thing I wish for, that noble committee finally gets its act together and realizes that you are the single finest candidate since the Nobel Peace, this Nobel Award was ever talked about, to receive that reward.
The Speaker of the House says, forget the Nobel for world peace. Trump deserves it for what he's doing in D.C. 12 straight days without a murder. 5 years ago, reporters were calling the president an insurrectionist. But now they're just grateful they're not getting pistol whipped.
In broad daylight, I was on my way to work, and a young man with a black ski mask pointed a gun at my face and threatened me to hand over my phone, my wallet, my laptop, and everything else. And when I refused, he used the butt of his handgun to strike me across the face, in the cheek, or what some people call pistol whip me, before running away. And that has deeply traumatized myself and my family. Ever since, I've never dared to walk in the street of DC at night, ever. And my family was extremely worried. So, Mr. President, thank you so much for what you're doing right now.
Thank you for being honest.
DC's so safe, the Guard doesn't have any criminals left to chase. They're picking up litter, cleaning up the park so Stephen Miller can take his wife on a romantic stroll under the moonlight. And if you take a life, you're getting the chair.
Anybody murders something in the Capitol, capital punishment, capital punishment. If somebody kills somebody in the Capitol, Washington, D.C., we're going to be seeking the death penalty. And that's a very strong preventative.
Capital punishment in the Capitol. Over half the United States have the death penalty. And presidents have used the National Guard to fight crime, illegals, stop riots, desegregate. Heck, we mobilized the Guard for a virus. Trump has every right to use the Guard to stop black gangs from killing. But Democrats call it fascism.
I think Donald Trump and Stephen Miller and Trump's handlers thought that he would conduct some kind of Mussolini-style military march across the country, subduing all the local populations, but it's completely backfiring on them.
Backfiring how? There were no murders in 12 days. It's a record. How's that backfiring? Trump says, if that makes me Mussolini, I'm here for it.
The line is that I'm a dictator, but I stop crime. So a lot of people say, you know, if that's the case, I'd rather have a dictator. But I'm not a dictator. I just know how to stop crime.
The left says crime's not that bad, and there's nothing they can do about it. And anyone who tries to do anything about it, Trump, must be a dictator, because anyone who can stop crime is too powerful. Democrats know they have the power to stop crime, but they don't have the will. They're calling Trump a dictator in Chicago? No, they're not. The Windy City's begging for the Guard.
I've lost an uncle to Chicago crime. I've lost 2 first cousins to Chicago crime. I've lost distant family members, friends, neighbors. And what they want us to do is find comfort in this chaos and normalize this trauma. And we're not doing it anymore. We need our president to come here right now and do a forensic audit to find out who's getting paid and who's benefiting from this crime, because right now we're grieving.
P. Ray's onto something. Chicago is the main distribution hub on the heroin highway. And the homicides on the south side are directly connected to the street gangs that traffic the drug. Where are those profits going?
We want to get this cartel out of here. We know that the heroin highway runs directly through the west side of Chicago, and they are trafficking $2 billion worth of heroin a year out of our community. Imagine what that looks like, America. That looks like overdosing. That looks like violence. That looks like people leaning. That looks like people rocking. That looks like people dying. We don't want to live like this.
The narcotics run from Mexico up through Texas and north up the interstate into Chicago, where the customers are, where the trucks can take it east or west and the boats can take it across the Great Lakes. Do you think drug money's paying off politicians? You think the politicians are being paid to keep a light footprint on the South Side so the drug cartels can keep their money up? 600 murders a year is the cost of doing business. JB Back can stop it. All he has to do is pick up the phone.
I would have much more respect for Pritzker if he'd call me up and say, I have a problem. Can you help me fix it? I would be so happy to do it. I don't love, not that I don't have the right to do anything I want to do. I'm the president of the United States. If I think our country's in danger, and it is in danger in these cities, I can do it.
JB Back wants an award because murders went from 900 a year, 30-year high, to 600 a year. Chicago's still got double the murder rate of LA. There's neighborhoods in Chicago that are more dangerous than Iraq. But JB Back thinks he's got it all under control.
We're very pleased about the progress that we're making. I know that I live rent-free in the president's head, and I wish he would spend some time in Chicago so that he could see what a lovely city we have.
6 people were killed in Chicago this past weekend and 27 shot. And Ribs is pleased with his progress. We could use some more progress, and we could use some more backup. But the mayor says no mas.
Do you believe that the streets of Chicago would be safer if there were more uniformed police officers on the streets of Chicago?
I believe the city of Chicago and cities across America would be safer if we actually had, affordable housing. Look,
okay,
I'm not saying that we don't.
That's not the question I asked.
Mayor Johnson's going to fight crime by building more housing projects? When Bill de Blasio says get it together, get it together.
I think the Democratic Party has to look at this issue much more honestly and say, hey, there are some places where we should be doing better. Our leaders should be doing better.
The problem is Democrats can't see past the politics. They think Trump's laying a trap for them by fighting crime. But the president's not laying a trap. He's just doing the right thing. Democrats should try that sometime. And the media is not helping. Here they are. If it wasn't clear then, it is now. The White House's public safety play is a deliberate ploy, one that's already backing Democrats into a corner. See, the media's got all their minds messed up. This is what Trump was elected to do. It's not a ploy, it's a mandate. The whole framing's ridiculous.
The new box that they've fallen into is crime. There was a consultant on one of the shows this morning I was watching. I thought he was very good. He's a Democrat consultant, and he was screaming, no, no, don't let him do this to you. Don't let, it's another trap. It's another trap. This guy's screaming, it's another trap. And this is the worst of all. He said, because this is crime. Trump is saying he's against crime, and they're for crime.
Over 90% of the shooting victims in D.C. are black. Trump believes Black Lives Matter. Do Democrats? And black Americans want safe neighborhoods. And the safer they get under Trump, the more blacks vote Republican. Just like when he secured the border. Trump won more Hispanic votes. So if Democrats want to avoid the trap and take the issue off the table, join up with Trump. Bring in the guard. Make the streets safe. It's not a trap. It's an invitation. Do what Trump did in 2016. Don't listen to the party. Listen to the people. Where'd that get him? Well, he won the White House twice, maybe 3 times.
And welcome to Hannity. So are some on the left finally waking up to the crime problem in our country? Now here's what far-left former New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio had to say.
And I think the Democratic Party has to look at this issue much more honestly and say, hey, there are some places where we should be doing better. Our leaders should be doing better.
All right, the former mayor, he will join us tonight, and he's had nice things to say about Mamdani, the Marxist Mamdani, plus a video of the left's new hero, the alleged wife-beating MS-13 gang member Kilmar Abrego Garcia, is going viral. Listen to this.
Gobierno corrupto.
In case you didn't get all that, we will tell you more. That's coming up. But first, this afternoon, President Trump touted his administration's huge list of accomplishments at a cabinet meeting that lasted nearly 3.5 hours. With reporters in the room, the president was reaffirming his commitment to having the most transparent administration in our country's history. Take a look.
Every policy of the Trump administration is designed to lift up the American worker, promote great-paying blue-collar jobs, and to rebuild the industrial bedrock of our nation. The wages for blue-collar workers are now rising at the fastest rate in 60 years, which is so important to all of us around this table. The average American worker has already seen a $500 wage increase this year, and there's no inflation. Domestic steel production is up by 100,000 tons of steel a week. We have a 50% tariff on steel, aluminum, and various other things. Copper just got brought into the picture, and that means people are going to want to make steel here. We secured new market access for American agricultural exports all over the world. Our secretary is doing a great job. Thank you, Brooke. And there's something really nice about just, you know, the openness of what we're doing. It's government. It's an open government. That's what we are.
First observation, can you imagine Joe Biden interacting with the press for over 3 hours? Does anyone even think Joe Biden could stay awake that long? And speaking for Biden, well, for months, Democrats, their allies in the state-run legacy media mob, they have been claiming that Donald Trump voters are having buyer's remorse. Well, we have a Harvard-Harris poll that dispels that false notion. When respondents were asked who has done a better job as President, Trump or Biden, President Trump comes out by a whopping 8 percentage points at 54%. By the way, my only question is, who are the 46% that answered Biden? I don't know, maybe there are that many Americans. Are they actually suffering their own cognitive decline? Anyway, while President Trump delivers results for everyday Americans, the biggest tax cut in American history, no tax tips, Social Security, or overtime. Democrats, they are floundering as a party. They are beholden to the new radical wing of that party led by Jasmine Crockett. We like Jasmine on this program. The Squad, Senator Pocahontas, Grandpa Bernie, of course, Nutty Gavin Newsom, who is continuing his pathetic tough guy act, and their new hero, Marxist Kami Mamdani. Now, in the case of Mr. Split Personality, Nutty Newsom, well, he has spent more time trying to troll Trump on social media and podcasting with Jasmine Crockett than he has, been worrying about fixing his own state. Has the highest income taxes in the country, the highest sales taxes in the country, the highest gas taxes in the country, some of the worst schools in the country, is as out of control crime, homelessness, open-air drug markets, tens and tens and tens of billions spent on illegals, especially with Medi-Cal, massive tens and tens of billions of dollars in deficits, no water in fire hydrants and reservoirs, and he's podcasting and posting all day, every day. And this guy wants to be president. Now, these performative, pathetic stunts on social media might help him in a primary in a Democratic Party that now finds itself on the wrong side of every major issue of our time, but it certainly will not help him in any general election. Gavin, instead of trying to act like Trump's alter ego, maybe you should just think about focusing on helping the thousands of people in the Pacific Palisades whose homes were destroyed by wildfires. Nearly 13,000 homes destroyed, less than 200 building permits issued as of early July. You're not helping the people out there, Gavin. No wonder there's been a mass exodus of Californians moving now to red states. Look at that. California, beautiful state, but people can't take it anymore. But you know what? Nutty Gavin Newsom, no. Listen to me. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep allowing the homeless people to build encampments all over the state. Don't try to restore law and order. Don't crack down on drug dens. Keep running up tens and tens of billions of dollars in deficits. Remain a sanctuary state and just keep doing what you're doing. And following Nutty Newsom's lead, the modern-day Democratic Party finds itself on the wrong side of every single issue, including crime, where they have outed themselves as anti-law and order with defund, dismantle, no bail laws, and reimagining the police. During his cabinet meetings today, President Trump highlighted the work his administration has been doing on cracking down successfully on crime in our nation's capital. Take a look.
If somebody kills somebody in the Capitol, Washington, D.C., we're going to be seeking the death penalty. And that's a very strong preventative. I think that crime is going to be a big thing. And we are the party, the Republicans are the party that wants to stop crime. We're against crime. The Democrats like crime. I don't know why. I mean, we talk about common sense. I think I got elected on talking about common sense. They're going to fight me. Like this slob of a governor you have in Illinois. And he goes about Trump, we don't need his help. Chicago is the worst. These places are really bad. We want to stay there for longer than 30 days, as you know. We have an absolute mandate, and I can extend it, but I'd rather not have to declare a national emergency because by that time, I mean, right now there's not an emergency. We should also work with our police department because you have very good police here. Very good. We're working very well with them, by the way. And we have to work together for a while.
And so far, President Trump's efforts to combat crime in our nation's capital, it is paying massive dividends. This morning, Attorney General Pam Bondi posted an update on X announcing that last night another 87 arrests were made and 4 illegal firearms were seized. President Trump is taking common sense steps to reduce violent crime. Law and order, safety, security, as I said last night, it is a prerequisite for any American to pursue happiness. Now, something every American should be on board with. That should not be an issue red and blue. No, it should be, red, white, and blue. But inexplicably, the left wants no part of the effort to make our country safe and secure for you and your families. This morning, Politico sounded the alarm for Democrats, saying that if Trump's latest actions were an attempt to goad Democrats into saying crime isn't a problem, they did not disappoint. And there's no better example than Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who has gone into full-blown meltdown mode over President Trump's efforts to take on crime and keep people safe. He was appearing on MSDNC's Liberal Morning Joe. Mayor Johnson refused 5 separate times to answer when asked if he'd accept more police funding for 5,000 cops and whether or not it would help safety and law and order in Chicago. Watch him duck and dodge and weave. Take a look.
I'm curious, would you also like to get federal funding to help put 5,000 more cops on the street in Chicago? Would that help drive down crime?
Well, look, policing by itself is not the full strategy.
No, I understand that. You've talked about the other things you want. Would 5,000 more police officers on the street in Chicago be helpful to go along with all of those social programs that a lot of cities are engaging in and having success with?
Well, look, here's the best way I can put it, Joe, is that in the 90s when I was in high school, we had 3,000 more police officers and we had 900 people being murdered every single year in Chicago. It's just not policing alone. Of course, we want more detectives.
I know it's not policing alone. But do you believe that the streets of Chicago would be safer if there were more uniformed police officers on the streets of Chicago?
I believe the city of Chicago and cities across America would be safer if we actually had, affordable housing. Look,
okay,
I'm not saying that we don't.
That's not the question I asked.
I don't believe that we should narrow it down to just police officers, Joe, is what I'm saying. That is an antiquated approach. I'm saying we've invested in detectives.
Mr. Mayor, are you hearing what I'm saying? Would an additional 5,000 cops on the streets in Chicago help complement those programs to make Chicago safer?
Look, we are working hard to make sure that our police department is fully supported.
Of course we know the answer, but if you are in a party that supports defund, dismantle, no bail laws, reimagining the police, sending in the social workers instead, you can't answer that question. It's basic, simple, common sense. Another weekend, by the way, of violence in Chicago. 6 dead, 27 injured. It shows the urgent need for a stronger police presence in his city. And the problem goes back decades. We have been scrolling on this program the names of people shot and killed and shot and severely injured in Chicago since Obama was president. But liberal Illinois politicians are so blinded by their rage and hatred of all things Donald Trump, they don't care. They've done nothing. They're ignoring their own residents' pleas for safety. Make no mistake, as a country, we are at an ideological tipping point. Usually we say that during election years. This is an inflection point for the country. It's basic common sense versus utter stupidity. And Democrats are on the wrong side of every single issue. When President Trump took steps to fix the economy, hand out the largest tax cuts in history for working men and women in this country, no tax on tips or overtime, protecting seniors with no tax on Social Security, Democrats, they pushed back. They voted for the largest tax increase in history. When President Trump sent illegal criminal aliens out of the country, Democrats, fought for their so-called rights of the likes of Abrego Garcia to stay here. When President Trump stood up to protect women's sports, Democrats were fighting for the right to keep biological men in women's locker rooms and on the field of play. When President Trump took steps to create lasting peace around the world, Democrats rooting against peace, hoping for failure. And now as President Trump is taking steps to make the country safe and secure for you and your family and keep our citizens safe, once again, Democrats are on the wrong side, fighting to keep America's big cities, dangerous, crime-ridden? Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.